Naruto stood in one of the restricted rooms of the hospital, staring deeply at the green tube that held one of his clansmen inside. Off to the side, Hinata was performing a series of tests on the deceased woman. "Any luck?" Tsunade asked as she entered the room. Hinata shook her head. "Nothing of use yet. We still haven't been able to collect a sample of her DNA in order to determine why Orochimaru wanted to keep her. What about the daughter?" Tsunade lowered her head. "No information has come up, which was to be expected. The Uzumaki are a dying clan, and very few have ever laid eyes on them since their village's destruction." Naruto stuffed his hands into his pockets, turning to leave and do some training. "But I do have something else to tell you, Naruto." The blonde faced the Hokage. "We just got word from the Hidden Cloud village responding to my message about the Akatsuki's movements. As expected, the Two-Tails Jinchuriki, Yugito Ni, was attacked by 2 new Akatsuki members that we haven't encountered before. Fortunately, they heeded my advice to remain cautious and sent a squad with her. She was able to escape back to the cloud, but in return, losing their 6-man team." "Did they give any description of the Akatsuki members?" Naruto asked, his fists clenched inside his pockets. "All they said was that one of them had his head cut off but was still alive. The other had a mask covering his face." Naruto groaned. "The 2 Immortals, Hidan and Kakuzu. Powerful shinobi who hail from the Hidden and Hot Water Village and Hidden Waterfall Village respectively. Hidan is truly immortal, no matter how hard it is to believe. The only way you can kill him for good is to either completely remove his consciousness from his body, or completely destroy his body by something like vaporization. He apparently worships some deity he calls Jashin. He gained his immortality from some ritual. Kakuzu is immortal in his own way, which has yet to be verified. Apparently, when he still resided in the Hidden Waterfall, he was given a mission to assassinate Hashirama Senju, which means he's even older than you, Tsunade." Tsunade grunted, hating that she had to acknowledge her age. "He didn't succeed in his mission, of course." "Yes, but he did survive. After failing, his village imprisoned him. He escaped soon after, stole their most powerful stealing technique and ran off," Naruto finished. "Do you think the waterfall still has access to that technique he stole?" Hinata asked. "Doubtful. Even so, I'll write up a message to Fu. She and Shibuki might be able to help. I've been meaning to catch up with her since I got back." "Anyways, was that all the cloud said?" Naruto asked. Tsunade's face turned stern, making the 2 adopt the same expression. "No. The Raikage has asked for a 5-Kage summit to discuss the Akatsuki. Both the Kazekage and the Two-Tails have been attacked in close time frames. Our intelligence reports from Jiraiya also stated that 2 different men in Akatsuki cloaks were spotted crossing the border, heading towards the Hidden Mist, while the 2 who attacked Yugito were spotted heading towards us, the Land of Fire. We don't know if the Three-Tails Jinchuriki was attacked, as their security is top-notch. In short, they want all the information they can on the Akatsuki, and I'm sure the other villages do too." "A Kage Summit," Hinata breathed out. "It's been years since one of those has been called." "Yes, a very long time," Tsunade responded. "It's scheduled to occur in 3 weeks. Obviously, since I'm telling you this, I want the 2 of you to come with me." Naruto, for his part, was dead silent. His mind was racing, filled with excitement. "What's up with you, Whiskers?" Tsunade asked, startling the blonde. Naruto scratched his head furiously. "Sorry, I'm thinking." He let out a laugh. "Oh, this could not be better." "What couldn't?" Hinata asked. Naruto grinned. "Granny, this is a Kage summit about Jinchuriki. It should be obvious." "Gaara will be there. You want me to go as well? Yugito and Killer Bee will likely accompany their Raikage. I'm certain Han will insist he goes with the Tsuchikage. And if the Hidden Mist agrees to come, Yagura will be there as the Mizukage. And Tsunade, if you can get the other Kage to agree to let Shibuki and Fu come from the waterfall, we'll have 7 of us. All that I need to do is contact Orochi and the Four-Tails. and somehow find the Six Tails in their Jinchuriki. If all of this happens, the summit would double as the first time all the Jinchuriki have been in the same place. Literally, a Jinchuriki summit. Naruto let out another giggle. Kurama's practically crying inside my head right now. Not only would it be a Jinchuriki summit, but all the tailed beasts would be able to meet for the first time since their birth. Tsunade stood wide-eyed at Naruto, whose face was practically radiating light. She turned the idea over in her head, finally realizing what the blonde was proposing, and why he wanted such a thing to occur. The question was, would it work? They would need to have incredible luck if all the Jinchuriki in each village were to be present. And it would take even more luck to persuade the other Kage to let Shibuki and Fu come as well. Finding the Six Tails would be difficult too. Tsunade, you got to let me start my hunt for the Six Tails. I only have 3 weeks, Naruto said. Please, Tsunade, let me do this. Naruto was literally begging, without all the dramatic emphasis in his voice. He really wanted this to work, and she had a feeling he would start looking anyway. She finally caved in when she saw the pure desperation in the blonde's ocean-colored eyes. Okay, Naruto. I'll let you try finding the Six Tails Jinchuriki, and I suppose I can send a message back to the right Kage about Shibuki and Fu. If they can't come as an individual village, I'll try to make it so they can come as 2 of my guards alongside you and Hinata. Thanks, Granny, Naruto shouted, grabbing her in a bear hug that threatened to crush her lungs. Now she knew how it felt when she hugged others with her monstrous strength. Naruto gave one last look to the Uzumaki woman in the glass tube. I'll be back for you later. Don't think I'll forget about you. He ran off with a dance in his step. Tsunade had never seen him this happy before. She turned to Hinata, who seemed just as bewildered. Does this happen often when he's around you? Hinata shook her head with a smile. This is different. He's giddier than I've ever seen him. She giggled. I wish I was able to see more of that face. Hinata began to blush. Tsunade smirked, making the Hyuga hide her face, her timid side showing. The 2 of you are simply perfect for each other. We try, I guess. Tsunade laughed. I'm sure you do. But let's get back to work. I'll have Shizune continue to monitor this woman, she started, pointing to the dead Uzumaki. I want you to put together tracker teams and find the 2 Akatsuki members that are disgracing our land. I'm going to send out other teams as well, but you will act as a center for this mission. You want me to command a wide-scale operation? Hinata asked, surprised. Yes. Your Byakugan will most certainly be useful, since yours is the strongest I've seen in many years. That combined with your other skills, and I don't see any trouble putting you in charge. Unfortunately, I do. If our mission is to scan the entire Land of Fire, then almost all of our tracker shinobi will need to be active. That includes the other Hyuga. I assume you can see the issue. Tsunade rested a hand on her shoulder. I do. And when I make the announcement tomorrow to the Inuzuka, Aburame, and Hyuga, I'm going to tell them that you have direct control over them, and that only I can counteract your orders. Anyone who goes against you will be stripped of their shinobi rank, and will have to start over from Genin. Hinata let out a small gasp. Are you serious? Absolutely. I don't want petty squabbles to interfere in our missions. Anyone who does so intentionally doesn't deserve to be a shinobi in my book. Hinata's face turned to a smirk. It's funny to hear you say that. You've gotten into fights with other shinobi plenty of times, even before you became Hokage. Tsunade grumbled. Yeah. Regardless, that's what I'm gonna tell them. You'll be there tomorrow, so go home and get some sleep. Yes, Lord Hokage. Hinata bowed before disappearing in a splash of water. Anbu Intelligence Section. Naruto walked beside Yamato as they walked into the large room where most of the Anbu's information was stored. But not in the traditional sense through scrolls or books. Instead, massive ceiling arrays were drawn across the floor and walls. In the middle of each of them, a shinobi sat in a meditating pose. Yamato placed his mask over his face, handing another to Naruto. It was white, with orange designs that were shaped like a fox. "What's this for?" Naruto asked. "Our Anbu masks are made with a special seal created by Tobirama Senju back when the Anbu was first founded. This seal can modify itself to a certain degree, which allows those who wear it to gain access to these arrays, which also change repeatedly. They run 24/7 and hold every ounce of information that the Hidden Leaf has access to, including all the intelligence the Anbu have. If there's any intel on the Six-Tails Jinchuriki's whereabouts, it's here. Either that, or Danzo has somehow changed the flow of information again." Naruto gave him a puzzled look. "Again?" "He tends to do that whenever he thinks he can get away with it," Yamato replied, as Naruto placed the fox-shaped mask onto his face. The mask remained suctioned to his face. "You seem to know a lot about Danzo. Believe it or not, I used to be in the Foundation. Danzo was the one to find me inside one of Orochimaru's labs he abandoned, after believing his attempt to recreate the wood style was a failure. He indoctrinated me, but I later left after Kakashi saved me on a mission." "I see," the blonde replied. Naruto followed Yamato as he stepped inside one of the ceiling arrays. He sat down in one of the 3 circles at the center, followed by Naruto. The meditating Anbu looked up. "What is he doing here?" the Anbu asked, referring to the blonde. "He's with me with permission from Lady Hokage. We're here to see all the information we have on the current Jinchuriki, specifically the Six-Tails," Yamato answered. Naruto assumed the Anbu was glaring at him behind his mask. The man ran through hand signs as the array began glowing bright blue. Naruto felt his mind being pulled into a new plane, similarly to how he pulled others into his mindscape. Thousands of images flew past him, Yamato and the Anbu. "You wish for the Six-Tails," he began as the images became more focused. "It is confirmed they used to live in the Hidden Mist. Approximately 3 years ago they left, shortly after the current Mizukage, Yagura, came into power. Do you have any idea of their location as of now?" Naruto asked. "No. It is unlikely he still dwells within the Mist's borders. They could be anywhere, and they could very possibly be dead. The Mist Anbu are skilled assassins, after all." Naruto stood in a thinking pose. "They left 3 years ago, meaning that Zabuza might have met him before he defected, which happened directly after Yagura properly became Mizukage. Is Zabuza present today?" Yamato asked. "Negative," the Anbu replied. "He is scheduled to return from Border Patrol tomorrow. I'll have to talk with him when he gets back," Naruto said. "Let's move on from the Six-Tails. I want what we have on Yagura and the Three-Tails." The Anbu pulled up a new set of images. Yagura became Mizukage over 3 years ago, and since then has been waging war on those with Kekkei Genkai, such as the Yuki clan. "That's the clan Haku, Zabuza's apprentice, hails from," Naruto added. "Many clans have been wiped out during his reign," the Anbu continued. "Lord Jiraiya has submitted reports that suggest Yagura is not in the proper state of mind. It is believed he could be under either his tailed beast or the Akatsuki's influence, which is causing him to perform the atrocities." Naruto nodded. "The Akatsuki are most likely the culprit. Jiraiya and I have verified that Yagura has full control over his tailed beast. But the real reason is why they're controlling him. I thought you and Tsunade believe the tailed beasts need to be sealed in order," Yamato said. "They probably are just using him to get rid of any potential enemies such as the Yuki clan." "True. They could also be using him in order to gain access to information, or perhaps even a base of operations. None of the other villages have entered the mist since Yagura came to power, so the Akatsuki could be working within there." Yamato sighed. "Either way, you still don't have any leads on the Six-Tails." "True, though Kurama was just telling me he could theoretically track his fellow tailed beasts if we get close enough to his location," Naruto said. "How far away would he need to be?" Naruto stared off into space for a moment before responding. "Roughly as far as the hidden sand, just like the distance he can sense my oldest Horizon markers. If that's the case, You should probably start looking for them if you want to find them before the Kage Summit, Yamato suggested. Naruto nodded in agreement. Thank you for your time, Anbu, Naruto said, giving a slight bow to the man. He nodded back, deactivating the ceiling array. He sat back down in his meditative pose as Naruto and Yamato exited the room. The former removed his fox mask and handed it to Yamato. Keep it, Naruto. That way you'll be able to access this room whenever you need. Yamato pulled off his mask and grinned. Plus, it suits you rather well. Naruto grinned. Once Zabuza and Haku get back from their border patrol tomorrow, I'll ask if Tsunade will let them join me, since the former might know the Six Tails Jinchuriki. If possible, I would like you to come as well, he said, gesturing to the wood-style user. Let me guess, you want me to come in case I need to restrain the Six Tails? I should tell you I've never done so before, nor do I have the secondary item needed in order to do such. Naruto unzipped his jacket and pulled out a green crystal necklace. Is this what you need? Yamato blinked. Yes, I was told it belonged to Hashirama Senju, but I suppose it became Lady Tsunade's afterwards. And then she gave it to me. If for whatever reason I start to lose control of Kurama's power, this would allow you to restrain me. And if I put it on other Jinchuriki, the same effect will happen. Yamato nodded as the blonde put the necklace away. If I'm going to join you on your quest, I suppose I will get some rest before then. I'll see you tomorrow, Naruto. Naruto nodded and waved as the Anbu walked off. He sealed away his new mask and vanished in a fire-styled body flicker. Hokage Tower, next day. Tsunade had just finished giving orders to the Hyuga, Aburame, and Inuzuka on the first wide-scale operation since her coming to office. Of course, the Hyuga were obviously upset that Hinata was taking control of the mission, but they kept it well hidden. Hinata was stressed, but she did a much better job at hiding her unease. Learning that her friends from the Tracker clans, as well as Team 10 were joining the mission, improved her mood. Tsunade ordered them to have all teams begin their search by noon that day, so everyone left to prepare themselves. Hinata did so as well, peering inside the apartment as Naruto was putting on a fresh pair of clothes. You ready for your mission? Naruto asked as he pulled on his shirt. Yes, we head out soon. I'm just here to grab some last-minute supplies. What about you? Zabuza's supposed to come back shortly before you guys leave. If he and Haku are up to it, we'll head out tomorrow. Unless we make contact with the Six Tails, we won't be coming back until just before the Kage Summit. We won't be seeing each other until then. Hinata paused her packing when he spoke. She watched as Naruto zipped up his jacket. Are you feeling alright? The Hyuga asked her boyfriend. Yeah, just a little worried. Worried I won't be able to find the Six Tails. And I'm worried about you. I know you're more than strong enough to fight the Akatsuki, but Hiran and Kakuzu are no joke. There's also the fact that you'll have to look out for other shinobi who are frankly not strong enough to fight them. Hinata gave him a faint smile. Don't worry, if I do get into trouble, I'll call you with the Horizon marker. Naruto sighed. I guess you're right, but still, I won't be able to stop worrying about you. Hinata pulled him in for a hug. If you didn't constantly worry about me, I doubt we would be together. Naruto chuckled and squeezed Hinata tightly. If you don't come back safe, I'll kill you. That's my line, Hinata retorted with a smirk. Naruto rolled his eyes and gave his girlfriend a deep kiss before releasing her. She smiled warmly before picking up her things and vanishing. Naruto sighed again, deciding to go for a walk until Zabuza returned. Hinata reappeared at the village entrance and saw Team 10 and Asuma coming to join her. Are you guys acting as my bodyguards or something? She asked jokingly. As if, Shikamaru retorted. Tsunade recently promoted us all to special jonin, so she wants us to gain more experience before a full promotion. Ino stepped forward. I will be acting as your conduit to communicate with the other shinobi squads, using the Yamanaka's mind transfer techniques. Hinata nodded. It will be nice to have some familiar faces around. She grew stern. But you have to promise me to stay careful. Our targets are both S rank. You guys might be strong, but you're still no match for them. Understood, Hinata, Asuma said with a grin, stuffing his hands into his pockets. We will be careful. Hinata nodded as the rest of the tracker squad slowly arrived, standing at the ready for their instructions. Hinata went straight to organizing the teams. She ordered Chino's group to head for the south, Kiba's to the north, Neji's for the east, and hers for the west. She and her team watched as the others left before moving out themselves. Along with Team 10, she had 2 members from each of their tracker clans. As they began their journey, she felt the 2 Hyuga's eyes on her. One from the main family, the other from the branch family. The former was keeping his emotions well hidden, while the other seemed giddy. She opted not to comment on either of their behaviors, as it was bound to cause issues. Okay team, we're going to stay together until we reach the border in 3 days. Once we arrive there, we'll split our group in half and travel separately, roughly 500 meters apart. Those of us with the Byakugan will still be able to see our full team from that distance. We'll move back and forth across our quarter of the Land of Fire. Once we finish in that area, we will receive word from the other squads. We'll begin our journey to the neighboring quarter. We will do this for each quarter until all 4 teams have searched the full country. And if we don't find our targets, one of the Amurame asked as he began spreading out his insects in every direction. Either they are very good at staying hidden, which I strongly doubt considering their profiles, or they're simply not here, Hinata replied. Do you have any idea what the Akatsuki are doing in our country? The Hyuga from the main family asked. I assume you all know what the Akatsuki's mission is, Shikamaru spoke up. Of course, the Hyuga replied. Their plan is to capture Jinchuriki, which includes the one called Naruto Uzumaki. Right on the money, Shikamaru grumbled. Always the troublemaker, that one is. I couldn't agree more, the Hyuga replied. Hinata stared straight ahead, not intending to show emotions in front of her old clansmen. She motioned for the Inuzuka members to take up the rear with their dogs, and for the Hyuga to take the sides while she went up front. The Aburame stayed in the middle with Team 10. They continued on for the remainder of the day, taking a 4-hour rest for every 12 more they passed. On the second night, Hinata was standing watch alongside the giddy Hyuga from the branch family. This is your first S-rank mission, isn't it, Chunin? She asked beside him. He blinked. Yes, indeed. It's even more amazing that I was able to be teamed up with you as well. Ever since Lord Neji spread word about you around the branch family, I've been excited to meet you. What's your name? Tomoka Hyuga. I've been a Chunin since before you were, but I have been recommended to be promoted to Special Jonin. On what standings? Even within the main house, I'm considered to have one of the most powerful Byakugan. I've honed it, to be specifically used for tracking missions such as this one. I can see many things that the average Hyuga cannot. Hinata smiled. That's quite impressive. I certainly hope you get that promotion. Thank you. The two were silent for a moment. May I ask you a question, Lady Hinata? Please, Tomoka, no formalities. We might not be in the same clan anymore, but we're still family. And yes, you can ask me a question. Tomoka twiddled his thumbs. Everyone in the Hyuga knows Lord Neji is going to fight Lord Hiyashi for the role of clan leader. If Neji wins, do you plan to rejoin the Hyuga again? No, Hinata replied firmly. May I know why? I blame only the main house for banishing me, but I still don't want to be brought back. Even if things change for the better, I'll only come back long enough to remove everyone's caged bird seal. After that, I'm renouncing my Hyuga name. And then what? Tomoka asked, not sure what else to say. I'll take Lady Tsunade's family name, the Senju. Eventually, I will take the Uzumaki name later on. You must really love Lord Naruto, Tomoka said with a smile. Hinata giggled. Just don't let him catch you calling him Lord. It might go to his head. She looked up to the stars. But yes, I do love him. Tomoka nodded, seeing the blush on Hinata's face. The two continued to keep watch for the rest of the night. They set off again in the morning. The day after, Hinata contacted the other tracking teams. Once they were all in position, they began the large-scale investigation of the Land of Fire. Hinata took Team 10, one Aburame and one Inuzuka. The rest went with Tomoka and his group. He was put in charge, much to the protest of his fellow Hyuga from the main house. 1 full week passed, and none of the teams had been able to make contact with the 2 Akatsuki members. They were now searching their last quarter of the Land of Fire. Hinata was beginning to wonder if the 2 Immortals they were searching for secretly had an invisibility jutsu in their arsenal. Hinata's split squad joined each other for the night. Shikamaru and Ino were on watch. The Nara leaned against a tree, trying as hard as not to slip into unconsciousness. Ino stood a foot away, spreading out her senses as much as she could. "Sense anything?" Shikamaru asked. "No, not since the last time you asked me 10 minutes ago," she drawled out. "Sorry," Shikamaru replied tiredly. Ino groaned and stared ahead of her. She could see a rabbit a short distance away, hidden in the bushes. She smirked. "Shikamaru, take care of my body, will you?" "What?" the Nara mumbled. Ino arranged her hands into the mind transfer jutsu hand sign, training on the rabbit. She ejected her mind into the rabbit's own. Shikamaru barely caught her limp body. He frantically looked at the rabbit as it hopped out of the bushes. He groaned. "Just so you know, I'm not carrying your body away if we get attacked." Ino, from inside her new form, nodded before scurrying off, intending to do a quick scan of the terrain ahead. She crawled through the bushes silently, being careful not to attract the attention of her rabbit body's predators. In this form, she was unable to sense chakra, but her eyesight was much better. An hour went by and she found nothing of importance. She decided to retrace her steps back to camp before she returned to her body. As she scurried back, she stumbled upon a strange smell. She didn't know what it was, so she decided to follow the scent. She found a small pool of liquid on the ground. After sniffing it for a long time, she finally discovered it was blood. Due to her rabbit body, the smell was unfamiliar at first, but there was no mistaking it. She continued to follow the scent until she discovered 2 new ones. She continued on as stealthily as possible until she caught sight of 2 figures. They were sitting inside a cave, with one of them dressing a wound, explaining the blood she smelled. The other stood at the entrance. "We'll stay here for the night," the one keeping watch said in his gravelly voice. "Those Leaf Shinobi are starting to get on my nerves." "You're telling me," the other grunted loudly. "How long do we have to keep running like this?" "Until they pull back their forces. With them searching all of the Land of Fire, we have no way of finding the Jinchuriki. Can't we just kill them all?" "Always a fool, Hidan." "Hey!" the man named Hidan shouted. "The Kage have already called for a summit due to our activities. If we slaughter every tracker ninja we come across, their resolve to join forces will increase, making our job more difficult." Hidan huffed. "Fine, you win, Kakuzu. Now let's get some shut-eye." "Fine," Kakuzu replied. He looked back out of the cave, seeing the rabbit Ino inhabited. He paid it no mind, but his eyes did land on the blood Ino stood beside. Kakuzu's bizarre eyes narrowed as he walked towards Hidan and dragged him to his feet. "What the hell are you doing to me?" Kakuzu growled. "Your blood is all over the place out there. Their tracker dogs will be able to track your scent if they find it. We need to clean it up and move on to a new location." Hidan groaned as he was pulled up. Ino instantly ran as soon as the pair began walking towards the blood pools. They still paid no mind as the rabbit ran as fast as it could back to Shikamaru and the others. She had to bring the rabbit back to them, as its paws were covered with Hidan's blood. With it, they could easily track down the 2 of them. She sprung from the bushes, startling the Nara from his post. He saw the rabbit and watched it as it held its bloody paws up to him. His mind wandered for a moment before he realized what Ino was trying to communicate. "Hinata, we got something!" Hinata awoke and ran up to him. Ino went to do some scouting using her mind transfer jutsu and the rabbit. Look at her paws. Hinata knelt down to look, seeing the crimson blood. What's so important about her bleeding? It's not her, Shikamaru began, seeing the others were now awake. She must have stumbled into our targets, found some of their blood, then brought it back so that Inuzuka and their dogs can catch the scent. With it, we can track our targets with ease. Hinata's eyes brightened in understanding, as did the others. Without need for orders, the two dogs with them began sniffing the already drying blood. Once they finished learning the scent, Ino returned to her original body, letting the rabbit go free. Hinata let her rest a moment before using her mind transmission jutsu to contact the other teams across the Land of Fire. We now have a reliable way to track our targets. We were fortunate enough to encounter some of their blood, so that Inuzuka will be able to track them. I want Neji and Kiba's team to rendezvous with us before we engage the Akatsuki. Shino, I want your team to fall back and report to Lady Tsunade. She received words of acknowledgement from the other teams before returning to her own. We will begin tracking them at dawn. We don't want them to think we've found their trail yet. I want our Inuzuka to be at the front along with Tomoka and Ino. Since she knows where they were hiding, she'll lead the way. I want the Aburame to be in the back. The rest of you will be with me at the center. They waited until dawn and then set out, running at high speeds, intending to catch up with Hidan and Kakuzu as fast as possible. Ahead of them, the two Akatsuki members were walking silently through the forest. Kakuzu was obviously agitated by how careless his partner was. Hidan was unfazed. Instead, he was thinking about his next potential victims. I sense something approaching us, Kakuzu stated, making Hidan reach for his three-bladed scythe. Do I get to cut them up? Depends. You're no fun, Kakuzu. Smoke erupted all around them, blocking their vision. Kakuzu stood with his hands at his side, while Hidan kept looking around in every direction. Calm down, Hidan. The more you move, the more you leave yourself open to attack. Kakuzu turned to face his partner, only to see that his head was on the ground, thanks to a precise wind blade to the neck. Kakuzu stared blankly at the disembodied head. From within the smoke, Hinata heard the curses that escaped Hidan's head. The others with her held faces of disgust. Kiba stood beside her. What do you want to do? We can't kill that one, so how do we deal with the other? Hinata shook her head. We don't know how Kakuzu is immortal, just that it's not the same as Hidan. I want you and Neji's team to try and separate Hidan's head from his body. I'm going to take on Kakuzu with Team 10. Gotcha, Kiba said before dashing off to join Neji. Team 10 joined her as they surrounded Kakuzu, who looked on impassively. Hinata activated her Byakugan and let out a gasp. I don't know what's worse. Hidan's immortality? Or yours, she breathed out. I'm not immortal, annoying Hyuga. Though I am rather close. What are you seeing, Hinata? Asuma asked, brandishing his trench knives. He's got 5 hearts, she replied blankly. Seriously? Ino blurted out. It's no joke. Each heart has control over a different chakra nature, meaning he can use any element he wishes. On top of that, his body seems to be stitched together, meaning he could easily disassemble his body in order to be used for combat. That's why the Hyuga are so annoying, Kakuzu grumbled. He stared directly at Hinata. Although, you do have a bounty on your head. I'll be able to make a profit off of you. Hinata remained calm, motioning for Team 10 to close in on Kakuzu. The Akatsuki member used Earth Style, Iron Skin, to make his hands as strong as diamond before dashing at who he deemed to be the weakest of his 5 opponents. The Nara. Shikamaru knew he couldn't keep up with his speed, so he had to go on the defensive. He blocked each punch with a kunai, while Choji ran up behind Kakuzu, his massive fists ready to crush him. Kakuzu stopped his fist with a single hand before delivering a strike to the Akimichi's chest. Hinata caught him and nodded to Ino, who began weaving hand signs alongside her. Water style, water spikes. Hinata opened her water storage scrolls, letting her and Ino form the liquid into powerful blades. Kakuzu had to dodge, as the power behind them would cause damage, even to his diamond-hard skin. Asuma appeared beside him, aiming to cut his throat. Kakuzu channeled Earth Chakra to his neck, making Asuma's blade bounce off. He kicked Asuma into the air. The man turned in midair and unleashed a stream of white-hot fire. Kakuzu simply let the flames engulf him. Once the flames dispersed, he looked down to see shadows holding him in place. Shikamaru held firm as Kakuzu struggled. He sensed a surge of killing intent behind him, forcing him to duck to avoid a three-bladed scythe. Hidan held his hand in his other arm while he swung his weapon. Hidan jumped over him, landing beside the now freed Kakuzu. "Do you mind fixing me up, idiot?" "Don't call me an idiot. You're the one who got their head chopped off." Hidan growled. "Real funny." "I thought so," Kakuzu replied. "Just attach my head back to my body." Hidan placed his head back onto his neck, as Kakuzu unleashed a mass of grey tendrils that acted as stitches for the Immortal's body. Hidan cracked his neck. "That's more like it." He was about to start swinging his scythe when a group of drills barreled into him. The lead duo, Kiba and Akamaru, sent him flying into the sky. "Your turn, Neji," he shouted. Neji flew into the air by using his wind style. He wasted no time, going straight into his 128 palms. The final blow was an air palm to the chest, sending him into the ground with a thud. The Aburame unleashed their insects, encasing the Akatsuki in the horde. "That won't hold him for long," Neji commented. Hinata landed beside him. "We can't let those two join up again." "Agreed. Got any ideas?" "I want those who know the rotation to join me against Kakuzu. His skin is tough, so we'll need the piercing power of the gentle fist." "What about Tomoka? He doesn't know the technique," Neji asked. "Have him continue fighting Hidan. I'll send Team 10 to join you in the Aburame. Have Kiba and the other Inuzuka jump in between fights when needed." "Understood, Hinata," Neji replied before relaying his instructions to the others before they separated. Hidan freed himself from his insect bindings. Kiba and the other Inuzuka kept dashing at him, forcing him back away from his partner. The Hyuga formed a tight circle around Kakuzu, ready to bombard him with gentle fist strikes. Before they could do so, Kakuzu discarded his Akatsuki cloak, revealing his stitched-together body. 4 strange masks were sewn onto his back, each attached to one of his hearts. He unleashed one of the masks, which had a body made entirely of a strange black substance. "That thing is one of his hearts," Hinata shouted. "Take care of it, and we'll be one step closer to killing him." The strange being jumped into the air and spat out a barrage of lightning bolts. The Hyugas had to jump out of the way to avoid being struck. As they did so, Kakuzu dashed for Neji. He unleashed an air palm, but it had no effect. Neji switched taijutsu styles and engaged Kakuzu. He ducked past a wide swing and jabbed him in the gut. Kakuzu delivered a double fist to his head, making him fall back into the dirt. He was about to step on the boy when a foot landed against his knee, making him topple over. Hinata jumped back, as did Neji, both performing the rotation. The 2 domes of chakra smashed into Kakuzu as he attempted to push back. The lightning creature formed a massive orb of electricity before sending it into the 2 spinning Hyuga, causing them to be forced out of their technique. The other Hyuga surrounded the creature, each using their 64 palms. The creature was stunned for a moment, giving Kiba enough time to jump into the fray and hit it with a pillar of stone. The pillar went straight through its mask, destroying the heart inside of it. "That's one down for you," Kiba said before dashing away. Hinata smiled. Kakuzu frowned and released 2 more hearts, fire and wind. Hinata and Neji erected a wall before a wind-powered flame crashed into them. "What now?" Neji questioned. "I'll take on the creatures, since I have water style. Kakuzu only has 2 hearts left. Focus on destroying at least 1. Neji nodded before turning to the 4 other Hyuga. "On my mark, we charge our opponent. We all hit him with the rotation. We can break down his defense. If you see an opening for attack, take it." The main house Hyuga reluctantly nodded. The mud wall came crashing down due to the power of the flames. Hinata activated her aqua armor and dashed at the creatures. A short distance away, Hidan was growing annoyed. He had yet to draw anyone's blood. The Akimichi was dealing massive damage to him, and the others were keeping him from fighting back. Asuma attacked next, swiftly batting away Hidan's scythe. He stabbed him in the gut, making him fall back. "Ino, now!" Shikamaru shouted. Ino focused on Hidan, forcing her mind into his. As she did so, a wave of memories flew past her. She saw everything it took for Hidan to become the way he was. It sickened her, but she held firmly to his mind, searching for any information inside him that they could use. Once she finally did, she returned to her original body. "I found out his original jutsu. Whatever you do, don't let him get your blood." "Why?" Kiba asked as he backflipped out of his confrontation with Kakuzu's masked creatures. "If he eats your blood, he can draw a design on the ground. If he's inside the design, whoever's blood he's eaten will be connected to him. Every wound he feels, you feel. And since he's immortal, he can inflict any fatal wounds onto himself and be fine." "How is that even possible?" Choji asked. "Who cares?" Shikamaru groaned. "All we need to worry about is not getting hit and finding a way to destroy him." "What about placing him in a minefield?" Asuma asked. "It'll work," Shikamaru stated, remembering Hinata's words about how to take care of the immortal. "The problem is actually getting him there. He's smart enough to dodge my shadow possession jutsu. We need to distract him." "Chopping his head off should do the trick." Kiba grinned savagely. "Me and my clan members will distract him. You guys wait for an opening to behead him." Hinata charged at the fire creature, a barrage of flaming bullets flying towards her. She dodged each one, delivering a palm strike to the entity's mask. A crack appeared along its side as it created a wall of fire around it, warding Hinata off. She whipped around, sword in hand. She sliced through the powerful gust of wind released by the wing creature. Water style, liquid blade slash. Hinata sent 3 blades of water towards the fire creature, each hitting it directly in the mask, causing a new crack to form. Kakuzu kicked away one of his assailants, seeing that Hinata was slowly tearing away at his 2 masks. He only had 2 more hearts left, so he had to be more cautious. He easily blocked a gentle fist strike before throwing his attacker across the field. Neji appeared beside him in a burst of newfound speed. Wind style, suffocating prison. A field of condensed air formed around Kakuzu, seeping into the hairline fractures in his hardened fists. He felt them flex, making him instantly disengage his iron skin. If those winds had more time, they would have eventually pushed the rock that made up his fist burst, losing his hand in the process. "I'll have to improve my iron skin after this." "No matter. Their gentle fist still has no effect on me." "Why do you say that?" one of the Hyuga asked. "What makes you think I was going to tell you?" Kakuzu replied smoothly. "It has to do with those black tendrils inside you, doesn't it?" Neji speculated. "It somehow protects you from interfering with your chakra." Kakuzu remained silent. He slowly took off his Akatsuki cloak, revealing his arms that had multiple stitching lines that circled around them. He detached his arms from his torso, preparing to engage his enemies. Neji altered his stance. The other Hyuga were puzzled by his unknown stance. Kakuzu ran forward, his elongated arms intending to pierce Neji's chest, aiming for his heart. Neji allowed the arm to come within a few feet of him before he brought his hands forward. Wind style. Mountain breaker. A wall of wind chakra formed in front of him, causing Kakuzu's arm to fly back. Neji instantly charged at Kakuzu, the wind condensing around his arm. Kakuzu formed a barrier from his tendrils in an attempt to protect himself. 8 trigrams, wind style. Single palm. He struck the barrier, causing the air around his arm to slam into it. The force was so strong that it made his feet dig into the earth. Kakuzu could feel his defense being beaten away at a rapid pace. He wasn't expecting such a challenge from any of his opponents. The only one he thought would give him a fight was Hinata. "It would appear I was mistaken," he huffed. "This jutsu was designed to be used against chakra-based defense, like the rotation. But I suppose it's effective in this scenario," Neji thought. He channeled more chakra into the technique, tearing away the black tendrils. Kakuzu had enough and swung his arms, making the barrier do the same, sending Neji flying. He landed with a thud as the other Hyuga looked on in shock. Though they hated to admit it, Neji was one of the strongest of their clan, and to see him perform such a strong attack, only to be thrown to the side, was jarring. They had no time to think as Kakuzu appeared above them, ready to take their hearts for his own. He plunged his hand into the first target, sensing his affinity for lightning was noticeably high. His target let out a gasp as he collapsed to the ground. Kakuzu stood triumphantly above the body, the removed heart still pulsating. Too bad none of you have the elemental affinities I need in order to resupply myself. Though, I suppose letting you run away would be a waste. Hidan shrieked in pain as his side was torn away by the rapidly spinning Kiba. The Inuzuka and Akamaru landed, going in for another strike. He had to cut off his attack as Hidan's scythe swung directly at him. He barely managed to stop his spin in time to duck under the blade. Kiba and Akamaru jumped back as Choji went in alongside Asuma. Asuma parried each slash perfectly, before pushing back with enough force to startle the Akatsuki member. He jumped to the side as Choji delivered an enlarged punch into his face. He flew into a nearby tree, making it fall to the ground in splinters. Hidan felt for the side of his torso, feeling empty space. He shrugged the pain off as always and slowly got to his feet. He brought his weapon up just in time to block another hit from the Akimichi. The flurry of punches sent him flying once again, this time into the air. Asuma performed 4 hand signs before engulfing the area Hidan was falling towards in black gunpowder. Fire style. Burning ash. Asuma lit the cloud with a piece of flint in his mouth, turning it into a raging fire. No noises were heard from Hidan as the flames slowly dispersed. Do any of you sense him? Shikamaru called out. I do, Tomoka called out. I see him all right, and he's not dead. Severely burned, but still very much alive. Shikamaru gritted his teeth. Asuma was the only one of them who had fire style, which was their best bet of taking Hidan down besides explosives, which they had few of. Ino, do you think you could crush him with a water prison? I'm not Sakura or Hinata. I can't use water that powerful. Damn it, Shikamaru groaned. Tomoka, have you found any weaknesses we can exploit? Nothing that we don't already know, but I do have an idea. Shikamaru jumped back to the branch family Hyuga, listening to his plan. We know he needs blood to use his jutsu, so what if we make him consume some of his own blood, or Kakuzu's? I thought of that, but I doubt he's stupid enough to fall for that trick. Hidan began spouting curses uncontrollably as he emerged from the flames, covered in scorch marks, and no clothing beside his torn-up pants. He started swinging at the air, yelling at the smoke to go away and stop killing his eyes. Okay, maybe he is a little stupid, Shikamaru conceded. He tapped Ino on the shoulder, making her engage her mind transmission jutsu to relay the plan to everyone else. Once Hidan finally came to his senses, everyone was already in place. Shikamaru unleashed his shadows, converging on Hidan and crawling up his body, signifying for the plan to begin. But before anyone else could move, a body collided with Hidan, sending both them and Shikamaru to go flying, as he was connected through his jutsu. Tomoka managed to catch him as Hidan and the second body, Kakuzu, skid across the dirt. Everyone looked over to see Hinata standing a few feet away, her fist smoking from the power of her punch. In the other, she held the heart of the fallen Hyuga. Ino, you know some medical ninjutsu, right? She shouted frantically. Ino nodded vigorously in shock. Then go check on Neji. I need to save this one, she shouted, running at top speed towards their comrade. His fellow Hyuga stood over him, but he was pushed away by Hinata. He tore his shirt open, revealing the hole in his chest. She carefully inserted his detached heart, much to the other Hyuga's surprise. Just what exactly are you doing? One of them asked. Saving this man's life, you idiots. Now back away so I can work, otherwise he's not going to survive. The Hyuga backed off, startled by Hinata's shouting. She reached for the fallen man's head and pulled out a lock of his hair, placing it over the wound in order for it to act as a medium for her technique. She knelt and flashed through hand signs, creating a large sealing array around her and the body. Healing, resuscitation, regeneration jutsu. She focused solely on the wound, pouring her chakra out steadily as she forced the cells in the man's body to act against natural law. They began to multiply at high speeds, the arteries reconnecting to the heart. Within less than 5 minutes, the heart was functional. A clone appeared beside Hinata, and it began using a precise Wenjutsu to start up the lungs while using the other hand to make the heart begin beating once again. The original Hinata then focused on repairing the rest of the damage, which included reconnecting the nervous and chakra system. The others had no time to watch Hinata work as Hidan stood back up yelling at Kakuzu. Kakuzu ignored him. Without warning, Tomoka jumped at the two of them. Hidan grinned and pushed his partner out of the way, swinging savagely, extremely aggravated. Tomoka dodged as well as he could while delivering gentle fist strikes to the enemy. "Tomoka, look out!" Shikamaru shouted. Tomoka wasn't able to dodge the upward slash aimed at his head. The three-bladed scythe nicked his cheek, drawing blood. Hidan was completely consumed with glee. "Finally! I've been waiting for this!" He moved his feet swiftly across the ground in a circle with a triangle in the center, creating a symbol with his blood which was still seeping out of his wounds. He licked the drop of blood off his scythe. Everyone, including Kakuzu, watched him as his skin turned black, along with white markings in the shape of a skeleton. Finally, a sacrifice for Lord Jashin! Kakuzu's eyes widened as he looked back at Tomoka, who had a smile on his face. He moved his hand away from his cheek, revealing no wound. Both him and Hidan had been fooled. "Hidan, don't!" It was too late, as the scythe was already through Hidan's heart. He stared excitedly at Tomoka, expecting him to fall to his knees. Instead, it was his partner who stumbled. He looked at Kakuzu wide-eyed. "What the hell's going on here?" "You were tricked," Shikamaru said bluntly. "Tomoka made you think you consumed his blood. It was actually your partner's blood, which you didn't see until now." "Hidan, you fool!" Kakuzu shouted in outrage. "I only have one heart left!" Hidan was speechless. He had no time to think as black shadows shot through him due to Shikamaru's Shadow Web's jutsu. And since he was now connected to Kakuzu while inside his blood symbol, he too felt the pain. Hidan instinctively moved to get out of his array, but was held still by Choji's massive fists. "Tomoka, find where Kakuzu's last heart is," Shikamaru shouted. Tomoka was already determining its location. He found it and ran towards Hidan, pointing at the location to strike. Asuma stepped forward, slashing Hidan's chest open. He then placed his hand over top the opening. Fire style. Exploding flame! Hidan's insides combusted instantly, causing flames to escape every wound he had. Even his head was forced off his torso from the strength of the flames. Hidan caught the decapitated head as it continued to scream from the intense pain. This was the most suffering he'd ever endured. Kakuzu was actually in better shape than they expected. He'd managed to use the tendrils inside his body to suppress the flames and keep his heart from being fully destroyed. Shikamaru quickly trapped him in a shadow possession before he could act. "Hinata, is your patient alright?" Shikamaru called out. He and the others turned to see Hinata repair the last of the fallen Hyuga's tissue. He was breathing heavily, but alive, much to his and his clansmen's shock. "He's stable," Hinata replied, taking in deep breaths. "He's going to be just fine." Shikamaru nodded, not bothering to remain surprised by Hinata's medical prowess. "We need both of these guys contained. What should we do about them?" "We'll bring Hidan back with us, but keep the head away from the torso. The latter needs the former to function. As for Kakuzu, I want to bring him to Tsunade. He originally hails from the Hidden Waterfall, so they should have a say on what happens to him." Shikamaru nodded as Hinata moved towards Kakuzu. "I'm going to heal your heart, so you'll be able to survive. But I'll be disabling your ability to use chakra." Kakuzu watched him passively as Hinata performed the same medical ninjutsu she used on the Hyuga he attacked. Once she was done, she slapped multiple chakra suppression seals on his body. After sealing him into a stasis scroll, she did the same for Hidan's now lifeless body. "What the hell are you going to do to me?" Hidan shouted as Hinata placed his head inside a glass jar. "Just making sure you can't do or say anything. Your voice is annoying." "Agreed," Shikamaru muttered, collapsing to the ground. The others were all tired as well. I can't believe we actually defeated 2 S-rank shinobi, Kiba said, scratching Akamaru's fur. It just means your training paid off, Asuma said, patting his students on the back. Still, we couldn't have won without Hinata, and thanks to her, we suffered no casualties. Hinata smiled at the praise as she filled the jar containing Hidan's head with water. The immortal man tried to speak, but to no avail. Hinata then blasted the water with air, creating a sort of pseudo-ice-style jutsu, freezing the water and Hidan's head along with it. And that wraps it up, Hinata said. Is everyone ready to head back? She turned to see that almost everyone had collapsed to the ground, and those who hadn't were still breathing heavily. She giggled and walked over to Ino, who was helping Neji stand. You alright? She asked her cousin. Just winded, he replied simply. Hinata nodded. We'll return to the Leaf once everyone has regained their strength. Tsunade and Naruto will be happy to have 2 less Akatsuki to worry about. I'm sure they will, Neji stated. How many members does that leave? 4, though we don't know the identity of 2 of them, Hinata sighed. She and Neji turned to the voice of the Hyuga she'd saved moments ago. Thank you, Lady Hinata, he said weakly. If it wasn't for you, I would have died. Perhaps we were wrong about you. No worries, she replied with a smile. She couldn't help but notice the other Hyuga's mixed expressions. She decided not to worry about it, and instead moved to heal her comrades' injuries. We only have 2 weeks before the 5 Kage Summit. I wonder how Naruto's mission has been going. If you like what you just heard, consider hitting the subscribe button and bell icon to get notified about new videos. If there's a part you've missed, then check out the entire playlist on screen. If you like this story, please share it with your fellow anime lovers. Any support helps a lot. That's all for now. This is Ninja Kai, disappearing in a golden flash.